truck hats and Ben Davis slacks, 30-pack of stroll, straight rock and roll. No Rogaine in the propane flow. The chosen one, I'm the living proof with the gift of gab from the city of truth. You know I jab, stab, and knock critics back. And I did not start a win. I said that I'm going platinum, selling.
As it turns out, the Super Bowl will be the site of not one, but two epic battles, two showdowns unfolding on parallel stages. On the field, it's helmets, pads, and blood and bone glory. But at halftime, that's where the real war kicks off. On one side stands last year's globalist, hyper-produced spectacle, a Bad Bunny performance engineered for international brand managers and social media consultants. But on the other side, roaring up from the heartland like a V8 engine is Kid Rock. Leather, distortion guitars, stars and stripes, zero apologies. This halftime isn't just entertainment. It's a referendum. It's God and country versus the cosmopolitan elite. Tailgates and truck stops versus VIP suites and PR decks. And when the amps roar to life and Kid Rock hits the stage, we're going to see whether the NFL's soul still belongs to the people who built it or to the people trying to reprogram it. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. It is Live Stream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, enjoying yet another exciting and glorious day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back on November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure there it is. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. As always, we got a jam-packed show for you today. Our super chats are up, so feel free to send in your comments, your questions. It'll be my privilege to read them and answer them during this live stream. It's really an extraordinary time, gang. I mean, America is literally going through a golden age. The stock market is absolutely booming under Trump. It ended up just shy of 16% last year. And last week, the S&P 500 surged to 7,000 points for the first time in history. Gas prices are at their lowest in 5 years. Mortgage rates are now under 6%. Inflation is under control. And last year, we collected nearly $250 billion from tariffs. That's $250 billion, helping slash our trade deficit in half, which means there is a massive opportunity to profit from the growth of American companies. But you got to know what you're doing. You have to know what's really going on and ignore the legacy media's lying narrative of doom and gloom. Their fear-mongering is deliberately trying to keep you down, to prevent you from taking advantage of all the actual growth we're seeing under Trump. And I don't want that for you. I want you to know the truth about what's really happening, which is why I am so excited to announce that our good friend Mark Wilburn of Neos Capital is hosting a private live event just for our listeners called the Golden Age Summit. It's on Thursday, February 11th and Saturday, February 14th. Mark is a stock market expert, a committed patriot, and someone who with a knack for demystifying the market so everyday Americans could profit from it. Plus, he'll help you make sense about what's really going on so you know how to profit from it. I've been through Mark's trainings myself, and I can assure you they are top-notch. They're amazing. Mark hosted a few of these events last year during Trump's first year in office, and he showed our listeners how to profit during the golden age. And some of the stories we heard were absolutely amazing. People like Bert, who after attending one of these events, went on to make nearly $25,000 on a $70,000 account in just 6 weeks. I mean, it shows the types of opportunities that exist right now in this new era we're in. So if you're looking for ways to benefit from this booming Trump economy, gang, click that link below or go to goldenagetraining.com to reserve your spot. Mark charges generally thousands of dollars for his training, but he's agreed to open up registration totally for free for all our listeners because he wants to support patriots just like you. We're living in America's golden age, and it's time to take bold moves to build the legacy we want for our families. So go to goldenagetraining.com right now to reserve your spot. Again, it's live and online, and it happens on February 12th and 14th. Click on that link below right now. All right, let's dive right in here, shall we? The woke executives over at the NFL did not expect this. Make no mistake. This totally blindsided them. They could not have imagined what's about to happen this Sunday in their worst marketing nightmares, right? They are so out of touch with what's happening in Trump's America in this golden age, that they thought it would be a good idea to feature that dude you saw at the beginning at the Grammys as their halftime show headliner. These woke executives are so clueless. They're basically still living as if it's 2020, the summer of love, right? BLM and all. They still think Otto Penn is president, happily napping in the White House. They have no idea what they've unleashed. And, you know, the warning signs were always there. I mean, this thing didn't start well. When Bad Bunny was hosting Saturday Night Live shortly after it was announced that he would headline the halftime show, he decided it would be a good idea to denigrate American culture by saying this.
De todo, demostrando que nuestra huella y nuestra aportación en este país nadie nunca la podrá sacar ni borrar. And if you didn't understand what I just said, you have 4 months to learn.
And then to make matters even worse, back in October, video surfaced of Bad Bunny refusing to stand for God Bless America. And then, as if it couldn't get any worse, you just saw what he said at this year's Grammys. And, you know, people are now openly asking, is that a little foreshadowing of what he's going to do at the halftime show? Is he going to be denigrating our men and women of federal law enforcement? So bottom line, the NFL, and more particularly Commissioner Roger Goodell, whose every bone in his body is woke, they chose for this year's Super Bowl halftime show, you know, again, think it one of the biggest sporting television moments of the year, a vile left-wing partisan who openly endorsed Kamala Harris, who regularly spews anti-ICE rhetoric, gives Spanish-only performances, and rabidly hates our president. Now, why on earth would they do that? Well, at one level, this is what many are calling the globalization of the Super Bowl, which is in itself an extension of the internationalizing of the NFL. So many believe it began innocently enough with the international series in London back in 2007. And by last year, the NFL ended up hosting 7 regular season games abroad in cities like London, Munich, Sao Paulo, and Madrid. In late 2023, NFL owners voted to double the number of international games beginning in 2025, with a potential expansion to 16 per season. And then you had the creation of the NFL's Global Markets Program. Okay, that was launched in 2022, and it now grants all 32 teams marketing access to 21 international territories, letting franchises build localized fan bases. And then the granddaddy of them all, we got the rollout of flag football's planned debut at the 2028 LA Olympics, which the NFL sees as a gateway to global football culture. So the motivations are straightforward, okay? Bottom line, they're market-driven, right? The domestic market is maturing, and the NFL is pursuing new revenue streams, including a potential multi-billion-dollar international media rights package, while growing its worldwide fan base. So choosing Bad Bunny is almost a textbook expression of the NFL's international turn and its bet on Latino and non-English speaking audiences. First, he is one of the most globally streamed artists on earth, with massive followings in Latin America, Europe, and among U.S. Latinos. So putting him at halftime aligns directly with the league's stated goal of growing its international Latino audience. League and club executives have explicitly described his, quote, massive global reach as the reason owners got on board, despite skepticism about a Spanish language act. Second, the choice fits the broader strategic pattern. The NFL is scheduling more regular season games in Mexico, Brazil, and Europe, and then pairing that geographic expansion with cultural signals that say, this sport is also yours. And so a Spanish-dominant Puerto Rican headliner at the league's biggest media event mirrors those market moves toward Latin America and the global South. And so all of this means that the Bad Bunny halftime show isn't an outlier. It is the entertainment industry embracing the same globalization logic driving international games, marketing rights, and media deals. So that's one level of what's going on here. This is yet the latest example of globalization of sports, the internationalizing of the National Football League, which means that it simply doesn't belong to America anymore. Bottom line. Now, right there, you can see how Roger Goodell is already demonstrating himself to be the Don King of football. You remember good old Don King, right? Now, he's a big Trump fan and all that, but Don King, the boxing promoter, is accused of many, including myself. I was a huge boxing fan. He's accused of basically killing boxing. And he killed boxing, I mean, the material cause, as we would call it. He killed it by turning it into a PPV event, right? Pay-per-view event. So by turning these big fights into rare, ultra expensive events, right? It wasn't always that way. I don't know how old you are, but when I was a kid, I remember watching Muhammad Ali fighting Joe Frazier on ABC Sports, Saturday afternoon sports, or NBC on a Friday night, right? I mean, it's just, that's how you watch these things. You watch them on regular broadcast television. But by turning big fights into rare, ultra expensive events instead of regularly available network broadcasts, Don King helped shift the sport away from being a working class based staple to now, an occasional luxury purchase, which ended up hollowing out boxing's mass audience. And so as prices and purses climb, many households simply stop watching. And other more accessible sports started to fill the vacuum, like UFC and MMA. Roger Goodell is at risk of doing a comparable thing to the NFL. Goodell's international expansion risks repeating Don King's mistake by trading core loyalty for new distant markets that ironically have no loyalty. So in this case, rather than shifting to PPV, the NFL would be shifting away from its regional loyalties, right? Philly, New York, whatever, LA, Chicago, within New Orleans, right? Within now, he would be shifting it away from those regional loyalties within a distinct American sports tradition to now a more cosmopolitan, neutral site spectacle taking place in places like Liverpool. And that can turn the league from a place-rooted civic tradition into a touring entertainment brand, signaling to traditional fans that the real customer is now international broadcasters and high-value sponsors, not them. So bottom line, this isn't just about appealing to a wider fan base. It's about alienating your traditional fan base, or at least risking that. It's not just about a new appeal. It's about alienation. That's what Goodell risks doing in this globalization or this internationalization of the National Football League. All right. But I think we all recognize that something far more nefarious is going on here. I think something much deeper is going on with this choice of Bad Bunny. This is not simply the internationalizing of NFL. It's not just economics driving this. It's not just economics. It is, in point of fact, the ethno-nationalizing of the NFL. It's not simply the internationalizing of the NFL. It is the ethno-nationalizing of the NFL. You might want to write that down. Will make for a very interesting conversation point at a Super Bowl party. It's the tribalization of the NFL. You see, hiding behind the veneer of globalization or internationalization, we can miss the deeper dimension of what's really happening here, but that we're all seeing. Something that's supposed to be a civic nationalist event is increasingly turning into an ethno-nationalist event. I'll say that again. Something that is supposed to be a civic nationalist event is turning into an ethno-nationalist event. That's what I believe is really happening here with the rise of an alternative all-American halftime show with Kid Rock and TPUSA. What we are seeing is nothing less than a clash of nationalist visions for the National Football League. What we're seeing here with the two different parallel halftime shows happening simultaneously is a clash between two different visions of nationalism. So, more and more scholars are recognizing, if you don't know, that the single most powerful ideology in the world today is, in a word, nationalism. We often refer to it as civilizationalism here in a wider context. We talk about this all the time on this channel, so make sure you smack that bell and subscribe button if you're new here, because we are on the cutting edge of societal evolution, as the immortal Rush Limbaugh used to say. So the gist here is this. As globalism begins to wane, populations all over the planet are increasingly returning to their own cultures, customs, and traditions and reasserting their national sovereignty. Now, the key to understanding what's happening with that return is that it actually has two distinct outworkings. It has more, but for our discussion now, we only need two. In other words, there isn't just one kind of nationalism. There are actually at least two. Populations are either embracing a civic nationalism or they're embracing an ethnic nationalism. Now, for the record, the two can go hand in hand like they do, for example, in Japan. But in multi-ethnic societies, polyethnic societies, generally speaking, you either have a civic nationalism or you have an ethno-nationalism. Civic nationalist movements are all seeking to restore their respective national sovereignties by reaffirming border security, economic nationalism to protect the jobs of their citizens, and reaffirming their nation's culture, customs, and traditions that unite us together as one multi-ethnic people. Ethno-nationalists, by contrast, are characterized by a turn toward a more homogenous racial and cultural makeup, where populations are increasingly balkanizing as they turn towards their own ethnic identity, their own ethnocentricity and loyalties based on kin and race as the basis for a new social order. Since 1991, at least 35 new nations have been added to the world map precisely because of these dynamics of balkanization and tribalization. Now, again, I'll say it just for clarity, sometimes these two nationalisms overlap like they do in Japan, civic and ethno. But here in the States, civic nationalism is represented by the MAGA movement and Trump's America First agenda, while ethno-nationalist allegiances are represented more by Black Lives Matter or La Raza, which literally means the race, which, as I understand, Bad Bunny is a big supporter of. So this is why people like Bill Maher, interestingly enough, a professed liberal, are making the argument that the woke left, let that hit you, the woke left are more akin to the KKK than anything else, precisely because both of them see race and racial homogeny as absolutely paramount. So what's happening to the modern left today is very important at a big level, right? Macro level. What's happening to the modern left is the modern left is turning very definitely into an ethno-nationalist movement. The logical outworking of which is unfortunately the eventual balkanization of our country. And that's because they're allowed to work themselves out in that direction. In fact, they are encouraged to be ethno-nationalists. And this is because of the left's embracing of what's technically called multiculturalism, right? Far from being just simply, we want all cultures to be equal and happy and getting along. That doesn't have anything to do with multiculturalism. Far from what it implies, it's widely recognized that multicultural sentiments impose an asymmetrical and ethnocentricity on populations by allowing and indeed encouraging ethnocentricity for minority groups, all the while prohibiting a comparable ethnocentricity for the dominant cultural group, namely whites. So in other words, under a multicultural policy, blacks are encouraged to vote their racial interests. Latinos are encouraged to vote their racial interests. Asians can vote their racial interests, but whites? Nope, you ain't allowed. Can't do that. Nope, to vote to further white interests would be considered a form of racism. And so what's happened over the years is that multiculturalism has morphed into wokeness, where now all cultural institutions, most especially the NFL, are now obligated to be platforms for the expressions of this radical ethnocentricity on the part of minorities. Wokeness turned that ethnocentric expression under multiculturalism into now necessary and obligatory acts of social justice on all cultural institutional platforms. So this is how the NFL got so soaked with BLM. And this went way beyond their stupid slogans, social justice slogans in the end zone or on their helmets. It actually went so far as to feature what's called the Black National Anthem before games. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the song Lift Every Voice and Sing. It's a song that was adopted by the NAACP back in 1917, and it's since become a musical icon of Black identity and political struggle, particularly on the political left. And the song caused quite the controversy of late when it was first featured at the 2023 Super Bowl, because it was sung right before the national anthem. And its proximity to the national anthem is what's so concerning for so many who believe that, in effect, it's putting forward a highly divisive message that there are de facto not one, but two national anthems in our nation. One for the nation as a whole, and one inspired more by these tribalist, ethno-nationalist sentiments. And so this is what is happening this Sunday. I would argue with Bad Bunny in the Super Bowl, it's the triumph of multicultural inspired ethno-nationalism that celebrates minority cultures while denigrating traditional American culture. And the only way we can effectively fight back against that is through championing the MAGA movement, championing civic nationalism as the basis for a truly unified, multi-ethnic society rooted in a common civic, cultural, and religious tradition that binds us together as a single nation. And that is precisely what the TPUSA All-American, note, All-American halftime show is all about. And that is what we're going to see next. But first, gang, if you are just joining us, our super chats are up. So feel free to send in your comments and questions. It'll be my honor to answer them on our live stream here. Also, the same nefarious globalist forces that are destroying the NFL have been eating away at our savings now for years at a federal level. Now, of course, we're talking about inflation, right? Where reckless Federal Reserve policies have been relentlessly devaluing our dollars now for decades. Now, here's a not so fun fact for you, okay? Whatever money you had stashed away in 2020 has already lost 22% of its value. There are riots in Tehran over things like this. Your savings don't shrink. They got robbed slowly and quietly by the hidden tax called inflation. And here's what makes this explosive. Most Americans have 100% of their retirement tied to paper assets, all dependent on a system that just keeps printing more dollars and wasting away the value of your money. But thankfully, there is a way to protect what you've worked so hard to build, and that's with physical gold and silver. Remember, Peter Schiff once said, you invest in gold in order to keep your money, in order to protect yourself from that inflation. And that's why I turn to Augusta Precious Metals, the absolute best in the business. Augusta Precious Metals has been helping Americans diversify with physical gold for over a decade, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, thousands of satisfied customers, and unmatched transparency. I cannot possibly recommend them enough. Go to TurleyBuysGold.com right now or text Turley to 35052 to get their free information guide. Here's what you need to understand. This isn't about liquidating everything, okay? This is about repositioning a portion. This stays inside your IRA or 401k, no taxes, no penalties. As the best and clear leader in their field, with my seal of approval, Augusta Precious Metals makes it simple. It starts with that free guide, then a one-on-one educational call, no obligation, no pressure. They're patriots just like us. You're going to love chatting with them. This is about stability, clarity, and a plan that makes sense in a world that feels increasingly chaotic. Augusta Precious Metals, the best at what they do, the ones I trust and the ones I recommend to you. Go to TurleyBuysGold.com or text Turley to 35052. That's 35052. Get your free guide today. You'll sleep better tonight knowing you got a plan. All right. So again, note the title of the TPUSA halftime show, right? All American. All American. That is what is rivaling this Super Bowl halftime show. This parallel show is a halftime show for all Americans, not yet another globalized excuse to hollow out American traditions and betray the working class, not another excuse to vilify one culture and then to be radically ethnocentric with another. No, an all-American halftime show that celebrates rather than denigrates America, that honors and reveres our culture, customs, and traditions, and that brings all of us, all races, all ethnicities together under a unified banner of America First. It's, of course, an all-star lineup: Kid Rock, Brantley Gilbert, Lee Brice, Gabby Barrett. And you can watch it on YouTube, Rumble, X, Turning Point sites. And that, to me, is what's so key in all of this. We talked about this a bit yesterday. What we're seeing here, why I find this parallel halftime show so fascinating, and besides just the clash of nationalisms over the National Football League, is because we're seeing in many respects the parallel patriot economy coming full circle here, right? So we started off with the internationalizing of the National Football League, that kind of the globalist dynamic that is propelling this Super Bowl halftime show. Well, but there's a counterpart to that economy, and that's the patriot economy, the parallel economy. And it's coming full circle in that it is restoring what a Super Bowl halftime show is supposed to be all about. Remember, historically now, to set the historical context here, sports in a post-Civil War American society became intentionally nationalized as part of efforts to create a unitive identity. So baseball's National League, was formed in 1876. The American League was formed a few years later. Baseball games were regularly played on the 4th of July, followed by football on Thanksgiving. And the national anthem became the staple, inaugural sort of musical invocation for sporting events shortly after World War II. So before the dawn of wokeness, sport and national identity were in many respects inseparable in American culture. The celebration of the one entailed the celebration of the other. But as society went, how do you want to put it? Insane, full woke in 2020 and 2021, you'll remember that's when there was what we might call this great cancellation, right? This is right after J6, when you had all these mass deplatformings of conservatives, when even the sitting president of the United States was deplatformed from Twitter and Facebook. But what happened is that mass deplatforming became a catalyst for the rise of nothing less than a parallel patriot economy. All those cancellations served as the catalyst for a massive exodus of users away from traditional big tech, as well as a slew of investors like Peter Thiel pumping money into new alt tech like Rumble and Truth Social, with an entire parallel economy emerging around those twin dynamics. That economy that unapologetically celebrated faith, family, and freedom and became, in effect, a woke-free economy, a patriot economy. And that's one of the ways we were able to weather the storm of the Biden years, the age of the auto pen, right? If you've been a part of this channel for the last 4 years or prior to Trump's triumphant return, that's one of the things we pushed almost every day is how you could get more and more embedded in a parallel patriot economy that celebrates faith, family, and freedom and weather the storm until we always knew Trump would come back in a mightier than ever. So whether it was in the form of alt tech that bypassed the legacy media, or crypto that bypassed efforts at debanking, or homeschooling that bypassed the indoctrination of public schools, or alt search engines that placed a premium on security and privacy, whatever it was, an entire alternative parallel cyber world rose up from the ashes of the great cancellation that preserved and guarded and celebrated faith, family, and freedom, that very civic nationalism that we find at the center of our national identity. Everything changed when Elon bought Twitter. Again, we talked about this ad nauseum a few years back. Was it 2021, 2022, when he bought Twitter? I mean, I did so many videos on the significance of that. And the bottom line there was, that's when the parallel economy, the anti-woke world, turned around and started conquering woke territory. That's when we went on the offense rather than the defense. So the parallel economy was simply cyberspace where we could regroup after the great cancellation. But then once we regrouped, then we went back on offense, thanks to Elon. And Elon expunged, he fumigated the wokeness from the largest instant messaging platform on the planet that used to be the most woke platform on the planet. And then, of course, a few years later, Trump triumphantly returned to the White House, and then suddenly everything that we celebrated in the parallel economy went completely mainstream. Our wilderness period was over, and we inherited the promised land and the golden age, as it were. This TPUSA halftime show is taking the twin dynamics that originally awakened that parallel economy to an entirely new level at Super Bowl scale, right? So what are those twin dynamics? They're boycotts and boycotts, okay? Boycotts and boycotts. Boycotts, in effect, sanction and punish businesses that denigrate our values, while boycotts support businesses that champion and defend our values. And together, this is what's called consumer politics, right? Again, ironically, in many respects, wokeness is the one that wokeness is what originally ushered in consumer politics by boycott, by literally canceling so many conservative voices. What we're seeing here with this parallel halftime show is those twin dynamics of boycotts and boycotts of consumer politics going to a whole new level. It literally operationalizes the parallel economy at Super Bowl scale. It creates a full spectrum alternative pipeline. Artists, sponsors, platforms, and values all routed outside legacy gatekeepers. Again, very similar to how alternative media bypass the legacy media the way email and texting bypass the post office. And there are two key ways that TPUSA is doing this. First, the All-American Halftime Show directly counter-programs the single most valuable piece of legacy TV real estate, right? Offering conservatives a real, simultaneous, ideologically aligned spectacle rather than a private boycott. We're not just turning off the TV. No, we're doing something active here, right? It's a boycott, not just a boycott. And then secondly, the distribution of this All-American Halftime Show, its distribution, its streaming is running through conservative media and alt tech channels and outlets like the TPUSA channels and X and Rumble, I believe Daily Wire, TBN, One American News. A number of outlets are all alt outlets, alt platforms are streaming it, reinforcing an alternative integrated ecosystem that bypasses mainstream networks, advertisers, and curation norms. And so what this does is it normalizes the idea that when conservatives dislike a marquee institution's choice, like Bad Bunny, they don't retreat. They don't huff and puff. They don't go, oh, I guess I'll just sit through, I'll grin and bear it. They build a rival tentpole product with their own stars, like Kid Rock. And it demonstrates to brands, artists, investors that there is enough audience density to sustain high production, values-driven event TV completely inside the parallel economy, which accelerates it into a competing civilizational narrative space. Again, I would argue increasingly taking dominion, as it were, over our culture. It's all just a fancy schmancy way of saying that Trump and TPUSA and Kid Rock are not about begging for pop culture's approval. Please choose the artists we want. No. Screw you, Roger Goodell. We're not about begging for pop culture's approval. We're about conquering pop culture. We ain't begging. We ain't hiding. We're not in exile anymore. We are at the center. We are the ones with the true power at the heart of this nation. We don't beg for approval. We conquer. This Sunday is about demonstrating for all to see that America First culture has ascended to dominance. The woke left may still occupy positions of power in our nation's institutions. But the people, the American people, have overwhelmingly abandoned them. The people are rising up and making it absolutely clear this is our nation. And this is our halftime show. That is the battle, the real battle in this Sunday's Super Bowl. And it's America First that will ultimately stand victorious. Over to you. I want to hear what you got to say as Josh, our moderator, puts together your question. Remember, our super chats are up. So if you have a question, you have a comment, it'll be my honor to answer it or read it out for you on this show. So as Josh, our moderator, puts it all together, I didn't realize this. Maybe some of you did, but did you know that U.S. life expectancy peaked at 78 years back in 2014? It peaked. And global life expectancy is declining for the first time in 30 years because people are aging faster than ever before. And this is largely due to more toxins in the air, right? Chemicals in our soil, food, and other external factors that are new to us. Now, what most people don't know is that we can actually fight aging on a cellular level. Scientists have discovered that kimchi actually slows the aging process of human cells, helping to protect them and delay aging. The power of nature can outweigh the power of pharmaceuticals without the nasty side effects. And now you can get all the benefits of kimchi in a simple capsule with Kimchi One. I take Kimchi One every single day, and I absolutely love it. Each capsule delivers over 900 probiotic strains plus antioxidants and enzymes that support your digestion, metabolism, your skin health from the inside out. So as we age, we become more susceptible to microbial threats, harmful viruses and bacteria. But the beauty is that Kimchi One is a natural antimicrobial, helping your body fight off harmful bacteria, viruses, and even toxins while boosting immunity and energy. Best of all, Kimchi One's 100% made right here in America. It's all natural and non-GMO. So what I do, I take it every day, and I think you're going to love it. Support your gut, protect your cells, and feel younger every day with Kimchi One from Brightcore. Today, you can get an exclusive offer by just clicking that link below. Use code Turley. You're going to get 25% off your entire order. Or if you want an even better deal, give my friends at Brightcore a phone call, and you're going to get 50% off your order and free shipping. Click on the link below. You'll get 25% off, but you give them a call, you're going to get 50% off. So give them a call right now at 888-597-0233. That's 888-597-0233. All right, over to you. What do we got, Josh? Jack, great to hear from you, my friend. Thank you for the Canadian dollars. Hi, Dr. Steve. It's your friend Joe. Good old Jack. You're the real Jack. My man, Jack. Northern Lights, Jack, we always like to call him, because Jack got us a wonderful book he gave us as a gift for my wife. It's just one of her favorite books. Love the Alberta independence updates. There's a huge difference between the Quebec and coming AB votes, assuming the Alberta votes. The PQ vote was a national referendum. The AB vote will be only Albertans voting. Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So the Quebec vote was national. I did not know that. I thought it was only Quebecans. Very good. Yes, it's only going to be Albertans then. Okay, that's going to be a big difference. And the big thing to keep an eye on, besides them reaching, 170,000 signatures by May 2nd, if I recall, to keep an eye on there is how, and this, Jack, we talked about it, is how independence referendums bring out the vote like nothing else. They turn out low prop to no prop voters like no other election. We saw that with Quebec. We saw that with Brexit. And I think we'll probably, again, if past is precedent, we're going to see that with Alberta as well. And hopefully Albertan patriots, at the very least, will vote to send the most strong message possible to Carney and the bullies in Ottawa. Cool. Great hearing from you, Jack. God bless, brother. Johnny, have you checked out of Don Bluth's films? Yeah, I have not. Johnny the Whiz Kid, thank you for keeping me honest on that. Let me put some up here to remind me. What happens is I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go do that. And then, it just gets, life intervenes. So keep me honest, Johnny. Thank you for that. I've got him up right here. Anthony, pray that Pauline Hanson becomes Australia's next prime minister. That's right. When is Australia's next election? Australia election. National. I should have put national. Oh, not to 2020. No, a federal election was. Oh, no. Yeah. I thought so. They just had their elections. It kind of went Libby, right? So next one would be 2028. It won't be far. So good. Yes. Robo guys. So will we not have elections anymore when every state on both sides just redistricts to no end? Well, no, but and we're winning those wars, by the way, just because there's more red states than blue states in the end, and we're getting more population. They're losing. Looks like with the 2030 census, they're going to lose 10 electoral votes It's devastating. That's I believe 10 seats in the House as well. Yeah, the way redistricting is working out, bottom line is right now about 91% of our seats are solid red or blue. It's I forgot the latest numbers. I think it's 201 Republican to 190 Democrat. And then there are about 30, if I recall, 30 seats that are up for grabs. If I do my math right, I'm trying to remember. Maybe higher than that. But in the end, even the ones up for grabs they're pretty consistent one way or the other. They may not be solid. They can swing, unlike the others. But when all is said and done, Seth Keshel, the election analyst, believes there's about 19 seats that are truly up for grabs right now. Now, I don't think those seats would be affected, but I guess, yeah, the number 19 rings the bell. That's why I'm thinking there would be 19 solid blue seats wiped out overnight if the Supreme Court overturns the VRA, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which has been used to carve out majority-minority districts using very much the logic that I presented here with the NFL and multiculturalism, where they believe that they use this notion of vote dilution, that their vote was diluted by virtue of too many whites in their district. So there are about 19 districts in deep red states and southern states that are solid blue right now because they're racially gerrymandered, that would be wiped out overnight and immediately turn red by being redistricted. So the Democrats would drop to about 170 solid. Now you'll get some more. Virginia is trying to get about 5 more. We'll see what Maryland does. But I mean, it's going to be very hard to compete with that kind of mass slaughter of 19. Plus, there'll be a few more in the redistricts. Ohio has yet to add. Florida has yet to add. It looks like Florida's could go with 4 or 5, especially after what Virginia did. But that's the politics of it. And the Supreme Court said it's perfectly fine, as you can gerrymander to your blue in the face. It's just our job to make sure we win. That's it. And I think by 2030, we are definitely, it's baked into the cake. We're going to win just from pure numbers game, just because populations are moving to red states and making them more red, ironically. Brian, my dear friend, yesterday I saw Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen on Larry Kudlow's show. Mark said that in his polls, President Trump is now underwater, and that evidence of a better economy that people actually feel is what he needs to focus on if we want to win the midterms. He's actually a very dependable pollster. We've had him on several times. And his assessment seems to differ from what I've seen in your recent videos, unless I've misunderstood. What's your take? No, I go with Mark. I don't know. Mark and Rich Barris and others are sort of they're kind of, from my assessment, they're all in on domestic policy. Although Mark has shown that blowing up narco-terrorist boats in the Caribbean is pretty popular. I should say kidnapping, but basically arresting Maduro was very popular, especially among Florida Latinos down your way, show off. And even Greenland's relatively popular. So I think they are hyper-focused on the domestic. I think Trump will be, especially after last night and his announcement on the Trump discounts of prescription drugs, which is really cool. So yeah, I think he's right. Although I just get nervous in that any time Trump makes a move internationally, they all freak out. Like, you're not all, I should say. I'm being reductionist there, but Mark or Rich can go, here we go, Bush 2.0. And I'm like, I don't think it's so much that. I think it's an entire holistic reset of the entire, this is the true great reset of the entire world order around civilizationalism. But I do agree he's got to focus very much on on quality of life, standard of living, cost of living, and at the same time continue what he's doing, bringing the crime, reducing crime to levels we haven't seen since 1900. It's pretty, just kicking wokeness in the, because wokeness is despised by both the left and the right. So he keeps doing that. He should be fine. But again, plus also, I just don't think Mark is taking into consideration the fact that so many seats are basically already baked into the cake. They are already they are more or less embedded in a certain partisan sentiment, deep red or deep blue, and there's just not that many contested seats anymore. So even if Democrats pull it off in the House, it's only going to be, from what I can see at this point, it's only going to be by a few seats. That's it. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be 2018 again. It's not going to be 2006. It's not going to be anything like that. MAGA 24 Dr. Steve, do you believe Thune will let SAVE Act come up for a vote in the Senate? Seems like he's slow walking it if passed. How would this legislation help voter accuracy in 2026 midterms? Yeah, I do. I think he has no choice in many respects. Now, again, I've said that before. I thought Pence was going to do the right thing on January 6th of 2021 because I said otherwise he'd be committing political suicide. We've found that rhinos are willing to commit political suicide. It just happened with the state senators in Indiana refusing to redistrict and basically telling Trump and all of their own MAGA constituents to stick it. So we'll see, but no, he'll politically pay for it without question in more ways than one. The party will pay for it because the whole strategy is to go into the midterms with a bump from a very hugely successful midterm convention, the first ever, showing how the Republican Congress is vibrantly enacting Trump's MAGA America First agenda. And if he's just going to keep allowing the filibuster to thwart that, then Thune will be in some serious trouble politically himself and the Republicans as a whole. So I think he has no choice. How would help voter accuracy? In many ways, it will fully require rolls, all voter rolls all across the country to be purged of inactive voters. I forgot, each one has a different standard. But in order for them to get any federal money, their voter rolls have to be completely purged. That was huge in 2020. Voter rolls were not purged. And somehow 4 million plus voters who have since disappeared were featured there, right? So that's one of the ways they do it. Very strict limitations on vote by mail. There are a few others. They're basically checking mechanisms. It implements audit and vote integrity confirmations into the very structure of our elections themselves. There has to be something. It's not fair for Florida to run their elections so wonderfully and for Georgia not to. It's not fair for Texas to have all their results in on election night and California taking a month. That's not fair. That does disenfranchise American citizens at national levels. And so that's what Trump's arguing. He's arguing we need to have a set voting protocol that guarantees free and fair elections permanently moving forward. And that's what the SAVE Act does, particularly with the purging of the voter rolls and putting strict limits on ballot harvesting and mail-in ballots. Because in the end, for me, that's really what did it back in 2020, was taking advantage of all that ballot harvesting and mail-in ballots. Basically the same kind of Somali fraud you're seeing in Minneapolis just applied to elections. Johnny the Whiz Kid, do you see James O'Keefe's latest video investigating the FBI on the lack of arrests? One agent says Cash is lazy, and even after the fraud investigation has been thrown out after Trump leaves office. Do you think if we get more seats, we can replace them with someone better? Replace with someone better. Remember, the House didn't want Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz. I guess Cash and Bondi are easy to ward off. So if you can get more seats, you think we have a better chance? If so, then more deportations have to happen. Yeah, Johnny, I don't know. You don't know how to win, dude. I have not seen that video investigation. But I would argue it clashes with what I'm seeing objectively. No, I don't think Cash is going to get thrown out of office. I don't see any indication that Trump is concerned about either him or Pam Bondi. There are plenty of arrests happening. We've got the whole 2020 investigation now overseen by Tulsi Gabbard of what happened in Fulton County. I mean, these things take time. Again, Trump's house wasn't raided until the second year of Biden's presidency. These things take time at the level of the FBI and the Justice Department. So you guys just stop blackpilling. Just stop it. I mean, you're not doing yourself or anyone around you any good. We are so used to losing. We're so used to being disappointed. We're so used to convincing ourselves that Satan is running things in our world, literally from Davos and from Brussels and from the deep state, that we can't even fathom. No, we could kick their ass. We can beat them. So, and we know it doesn't have to be done your way. Stop trying to rescue MAGA from Trump. Stop. It's ridiculous. Stop. So that's my message to you. I don't know what O'Keefe. I was with O'Keefe in Florida a couple of weeks ago. He sure as hell wasn't saying anything like that. I'll tell you that. Sven Olsen at the NFL wanted to reach out to Latinos of foreign nations. They should have hired the warning three sisters from Mexico. Rock and roll to the core. Absolutely, yeah. Again, I have no problem with an all Spanish. Honestly, I don't. I have no problem with an all Spanish routine. I have no problem with Latinos are some of the most nationalist, pro-American people on the planet. They're MAGA through and through, particularly Cubans and Venezuelans. So there's no point in putting this globalist, cosmopolitan, woke idiot on platforming him in the National Football League, right? I mean, there's just no point. The guy denigrates the very nation that provides the moniker for his platform. It's absurd. Mark, thank you for your relentless work every day. Thank you, Mark. God bless you. Appreciate that very much. Richard, Dr. Steve, your thoughts on the Dem treatment of Scott Besson? Oh, the finance committee here. You mean David and Goliath? You mean kindergartners versus the professor? Well, I mean, it's pretty clear. Again, we're not in a hot civil war, but we're very close. Okay, let's just be blunt. It's very clear that Democrats and Republicans hate each other on the Hill. That we never saw that. I remember taking my sisters years ago. This is the 1990s. I remember taking my sister she was visiting me. I used to live in Baltimore, and I took her to D.C. We took a train down, we drove down and then just walked around D.C. And then we took the subway under the Capitol. I'm sure they have all kinds of security now. Back then, they didn't. You could move anywhere you want. I remember seeing John Kasich there. What was his name? The firebrand. He ran for president in 96. He didn't get more than like 0.5 vote. Oh, I forget. From California. He was a firebrand. His district has since gone blue. He's a hardcore red. But I remember he was riding in the little subway train they have with a hardcore leftist. So again, all these guys are gone, retired, half of them are dead, I'm sure. But they were friends. They hung out. They clicked glasses, right? It was the uniparty. Even the hardcore firebrands and the hard leftists were still friends at the end of the day. I don't think that's true anymore, which I'm glad about, by the way. I don't think that's true anymore. I think they really hate each other, and they're willing to arrest each other at this point. And you saw that. You saw that with just these absurd antics from the left, the lunatic left, and Scott Besson just sitting there, just smiling. And so these are just really, in the end, theatrical. This is performative politics in the end. Nothing is coming of it. And I like the fact that the White House does it, so we get to see, number one, how unhinged the left is, but of course how superior our side is. I mean, whether it's Marco Rubio smacking him around, or Scott Bessent, or Robert Kennedy, you name it, Tulsi, Pam Bondi, they could smack them around left and right. Love it. Rhetorically speaking, of course, rhetorically. Franz, Dr. Z, does literature apply to hypernormalization when considering Ilhan Omar and the Grapes of Wrath? Wow. Yeah, no, I could see that. I don't know. It's been too long since I've done Grapes of Wrath. I don't even know, believe it or not, if I read Grapes of Wrath. I think I did, but it might have been in high. Yes, Steinbeck. California, seeking work, better life, but facing poverty, exploitation, hardship. But sure. But of course, literature can be employed for all kinds of propaganda. All art is propaganda. It's a question: is it good propaganda or bad propaganda? Right? Propaganda is simply the art of persuasion. When all said and done, what we tend to think of it as a pejorative sense. No problem, but all literature, all art, all architecture are transmitters of messages, deliberate messages that the artist embedded in there. Now, classical art sought to communicate transcendent truth, goodness, and beauty through the medium of art. So the artist, in many ways, was like a priest. They were priestly. They were mediators of eternal truth, goodness, and beauty to draw you in, because that's what beauty does. Beauty classically is a physics. Beauty awakens what the Greek called eros inside us, which is love. The New Testament uses the word generally agape. So when we find something that's beautiful, we are necessarily attracted to it. We're drawn to it like a gravitational pull, like a tractor beam, right, in Star Wars. And so the artists created this thing of beauty so as to draw you and attract you to the true and the good. In order for something to be truly beautiful, it had to be true and good by definition, since beauty is the loveliness, the radiance, the delightfulness of the true and good. What you're seeing in the modern world is all art became activism. It traded this notion of being a priestly mediator of the eternal, true, and good and beautiful to now being a propagandist in the worst form of the term. So now you're trying to more or less, what's the word? Brainwash people into an ideology. And remember, ideology is the 19th French word, idéologue. It's the 19th century French word to replace religion, religio. Now that we've killed religion, we need something else now to bind us all together, because that's classically what religion did. That's what religio means. Religare, to retie, to rebind. So without religion to bind us together, we need something else. So they believed a secular ideology would be the means of doing that. And so now all art becomes propaganda for ideology, for some stupid secular ideology. So that's where, when you get this hyper-normalization, you get this notion that where everybody knows it's a lie, but they have because of the totalitarianism, they have no alternative with which to call it out as a lie, so that everyone pretends to believe it, even though nobody does. That kind of thing. Validate my victimhood. RT Corp. Oh, great and learned Patriot professor. Did you see that the Democrats are accusing James Tallarico of being racist? What do you make of it? Do you think it's just another overused Democrat tactic of playing nice until his usefulness becomes an obstacle? So time to force him out. Let me see. James Tallarico. Oh, yes. Okay. The Senate, the possible Senate candidate for Texas, who will probably lose by double digits. Oh, so they're calling him a racist now? Yeah, right. Well, the old saying is a racist is the definition of a racist is a conservative who's beating a liberal in an argument. Okay. Yeah, no, race has just been thoroughly and cynically weaponized by the left as a veneer of power. They don't care about race. They don't care about races. Grievance politics is an industry. Grievance, but you can make a lot of money. You can make just ask the SPLC. You can make tens of millions of dollars a year on crying racism against people, right? Or the Rainbow Coalition, Jesse Jackson, all that. Al Sharpton, the champagne socialists, the limousine liberals. No, so, but the irony is it only worked as long as progressive realism reigned dominant in our country. And that really started in the 1990s after the fall of the Soviet Union. And progressive realism is more or less a derivative of Frank Fukuyama's end of history thesis, where he argued, it was a breathtaking argument actually, that the arc of history inevitably bends towards what, for him, it was liberal democracy. But for Barack Obama in the 2000s, it was the arc of history inevitably bends towards a liberal vision of social justice. So it's inevitable. That's why liberals always are so arrogant. That's why, again, nothing can happen. There are only two positions, two orientations of the liberal: a total and complete arrogance and dismissal of whatever non-liberals believe, adhere to, or argue, or a total freak out when that argument looks like it's winning. And so when they, whether they dismiss you or deride you, or freak out at you, they're always going to use the basic categories of progressive realism as their frames for their sentiment, for either their dismissal or for their freak out. Shall I say dismissal, or maybe disgust, or derangement. Maybe that's if I want to find a little alliteration there. So they're either going to dismiss you or they're going to be deranged at you based on the fundamental categories of progressive realism. And the fundamental categories are race, right, gender, and sexuality. And so it doesn't matter what you guys talk about. Doesn't matter what the issue is. The question, by the way, it used to be environment was thrown in there, but you'll notice that's kind of fallen apart, because I think Greta Thunberg ended up setting the environmental movement back like 40 years. I mean, she was such a PR disaster. But regardless, no matter what you're arguing, no matter what you're discussing, whatever it is, it's always going to come back to, yes, but how does this affect blacks? Oh, yes, but how does this affect Latinos? Oh, yes, but how does this affect LGBT? Or yeah, but notice what you're doing to women. What about gay marriage? What about women's rights? What about gay rights? So they can't think apart from what's called emancipatory politics. And they can't think apart from emancipatory politics because they think history is moving in their direction. So they arrogantly dismiss you as being basically a knuckle dragger, as being a hick, a redneck, uneducated. All educated people obviously believe this way. Or they get deranged, they go hysterical, they get unhinged because they have to do everything they can to fight back against the triumph of the violation of their emancipatory politics, which means racism, bigotry, sexism, and the like. So I wouldn't pay any attention to it. And I think I think you're pointing out too, that it eventually ends up destroying themselves. They eventually turn on themselves in this. That's why Kamala embarrassingly referred to Joe Biden in the 2020 nomination process, Democratic nomination process, she referred to him as a racist. And Biden was part of, the old Jim Crow era kind of thing. So, yeah. The one and only BW, I know we should never be complacent, but how much of the polling and Trump is not going to do well in the midterms do you think is a psyop? I think a lot is. I do. I think a lot is. I don't know where it comes from. I don't have any insight into it at all. Any behind the scenes information. It's just, for me, there are two versions of post America. So I believe we're not fighting the left so much anymore. I'll use the term, but I think the left today is post American. They want to destroy America, and they want to replace. They believe America is so systemically racist that the only just thing to do is to destroy it and rebuild it in their own cultural Marxist image. That's the post-American vision of the left. But there is also a post-American right. And the post-American right are those who believe that we lost America when the deep state took over. And when the deep state took over shortly thereafter, after FDR setting up the structure for it, and then they kill JFK and so on. And then they dethrone Richard Nixon after the single greatest electoral landslide in American politics. They're the ones who are actually running the show. We lost our country. It's not, democracy means nothing. A constitutional republic means nothing. And so those are your two visions. And for us, the problem is that we put in Trump, and he has been demonstrably crushing the deep state and the administrative state, demonstrably so. If you are a post-American right and devoted to that, you can't see that. And so they're going over to Candace. Even Alex Jones thinks some of these people on the post-American right are nuts. I don't mean that in a degrading sort of way. I'm just trying to point out that I think that that's the side, that's the black pillar doomer side of our movement that does not believe we can possibly win because there's nothing to win. America's already been compromised. There is no America anymore. So they're just part of the right. And fortunately, they're a very, very tiny minority. And I really honestly don't pay attention. Keep your doom scrolling to a minimum. It's not an accurate view of reality, and it's easily sucks you in. But keep it, and unfortunately, it's on X. X is where I see the most of it. Keep it to a minimum. But I'm going to call them out. Blaze TV loves to put up, Alexandria Cortez calls for so-and-so's arrest, and this is some Republicans arrest. Why do I care what AOC says? Why would I care? She's irrelevant. She's meaningless. Now, if she assumes power, then first of all, it's our job to make sure she never assumes power. But why do you do that? They're doing that to piss you off. They're doing that to rage bait you. And I don't know why I see Blaze doing that all the time. I see a number of others doing that all the time. But there's no reason on earth for you to be rage baiting anyone. Who gives a flip what that borderline illiterate says? So that's why you'll see it many times. I comment on these. Barack Obama said, and I'll comment above it, I stop reading after Barack Obama says. Why would I care? He means nothing. He has no power. He has no influence. Why would I care? Now, if you're going to mock him, I'm with you. Do it. Let's have fun. But this idea of, we got to take it seriously. We got to make sure we know it. We know what they believe. They want us gone. We know that. They want us eradicated. We know that. So there you go. I could go on and on and on with that. Anthony, I love to see the days of Frank Lloyd Wright back. Make America's architecture beautiful again and make America make again. Oh, I love that. That's great. Yeah, I did a presentation on Monday night on this extraordinary building renaissance that's going on. I focused on the cathedral building projects in Russia and really the orthosphere as a whole. It's been about 30,000 new churches built, three new churches a day, 30,000 over the last 30 years. And amazing building project like St. Sava's in Belgrade and the People's Cathedral in Bucharest. And then I got into the revival of classical architecture in Budapest and Hungary, where they're redesigning and renovating the Buddha castle there, where the part of the name Budapest comes from. One side is Buddha and the other one is Pest. Bring the two cities, you get Buddha. So the Buddha castle is getting renovated to its Habsburgian glory. And then I drew connections with Trump and what he's doing with the new Arc de Triomphe and what he's doing with the executive order that requires all federal buildings now to be designed and built according to the classical style, Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome, very much like we see with the Capitol building or Supreme Court building, because the key there is that architecture, I love how you put it, Anthony, architecture communicates, just like what we're talking about. Architecture transmits, it sends messages. And when you see the Capitol building, you're seeing we stand in continuity with Republican Rome, right? Or you see the Supreme Court building, we stand in continuity with the ideals of Athens, or this sort of stuff. Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome become integral. You see the J. Edgar Hoover building, right? Have you seen that? The J. Edgar Hoover building? It was voted by the Harvard Architectural Digest or something like that journal as the ugliest building in Washington, D.C. And it's ugly because it communicates, it was built in the 60s, and it communicates this notion that the federal government has turned into an administrative state. So we have no ideals, no Republican ideals, no Athenian ideals, no moral ideals. Our ideals are purely administration and cubicles. And it's disgusting, it's ugly, and it should be torn down. So Trump is saying no more of that. We're gonna restore a sense of civic civilizational identity in our architecture. So the way you're thinking is right on course with everything that's happening in our rising civilizationalist world. And hopefully we're going to knock down all those ugly modern buildings. They're terrible. Jay-Z is on the Epstein files. Oh, I'm sure he is. Is there anything Jay-Z is not on? A lot of people in the Epstein files. And they talk about backfiring, right? Notice Democrats aren't talking about it anymore. Also, you think the one and only. Also, you think we will get SAVE Act and VRA gone? Yeah, I think so. I think we have to get the SAVE Act. Otherwise, there'll be nothing for the Republicans to run on. They know they have to pass legislation. The Democrats know that, so that's why they're blocking via the filibuster. And so I think they're going to have to get rid of the filibuster. There's no way around it politically. And yeah, I think the Supreme Court is signaling that they're going to overturn VRA. We're going to get a lot more new solid red seats. Diane, if we were in a classic novel, who would the great wise professor be and why? Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. Who would I want to be, right? Who would I want to be in a classic novel? Wow. Good question. Oh my, I'd have to think about that. I really do. I have to think about that. One of my favorite characters is Samwise Gamgee. I love Samwise just because of how faithful he was. His friendship was to Frodo, and how he was willing to suffer alongside of him. I wish I had more qualities like that in me. I'm not Aragorn. I'm not brave. I'm like I said, I was with Jack Posobiec in Florida the other day. And he was just talking about how he came back from Minneapolis. He saw this and that and so forth. And I just smiled and said, "Well, I just came back from the library, and I like my books. I like the safety of uh, of uh, of academia and so on." I mean, I love Alyosha in the Brothers Karamazov. He's one of the most beautiful characters that I've ever encountered. Um, I love his faith. I love his kindness. I love the way he struggles. He struggles with faith. And he struggles with how to reconcile the new creation with this current world and how they intersect. It's funny you're gonna say I love Ebenezer Scrooge. Any of you have been to my Christmas Carol readings? I have a whole analysis of the biblical themes, and there's a little of me in Ebenezer. I do have a bit of a hard veneer. I can, believe it or not, or I've had, and I just love how it's melted. And his inner child, as it were, he literally says that when he wakes up on Christmas morning. He says, "I'm as light as a feather. I feel as happy as a baby." So we see two births on Christmas Day, right? The birth of Christ and the birth of Ebenezer, the new birth. So that story always melts my heart. So there you go. There's a few right there. I'd have to think that through. What a great question, Diane. I really have to think about that. The success of the GOP still comes down to stopping voter fraud and the deporting of illegal voters. I agree 1,000%. So SAVE Act and what Trump is doing will do it. No question. I think you're absolutely right. Oh, and voter ID. Why didn't I bring that up? All right. SAVE Act will mandate voter ID. I knew it. I was like, I'm forgetting something, right? They're going to purge the voter rolls. They're going to put strictures on ballot harvesting. If anything, get rid of ballot harvesting and mail-in votes and voter ID. I forgot. Absolutely. Voter ID. Michael, Steve, have you thought about doing a live stream reaction to the Turning Point halftime show? That would be awesome. Wow. Okay. Maybe we can do that. I guess my only concern would be like copyright stuff. With music can be really bad. Even with the two clips I was giving today, it was just one clip I was giving today. I got a little, because it was a Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live is usually bad. I'll see what I can do, Michael. I'll see what I can do. Wild and Crazy Bear, any bets the NFL will drop Jay-Z since he's in the files? Why? Jay-Z is in prison, isn't he? Let me see. Hold on. Jay-Z. Yeah, are you confusing him with Bad Bunny? Let me see. I'm getting the wrong I'm thinking of the wrong person. I'm not seeing Jay-Z slated for this. Signs. Maybe he is. Oh, okay. Sorry. I take that. La Russell talks Jay-Z, me, Kiri leaving. Oh, so is he going to be? I didn't even know Jay-Z was going to be on there, to be honest with you. So it's my fault. You see, as usual. Extend far beyond the Super Bowl. Yeah, I don't know. Good question. Who was I thinking of? I was thinking of like Puff Diddy. I can't keep these guys. Josh, I can see our producer Josh is just laughing at me, or just like, dude, just shaking his head. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Anthony, Ken Yasker for governor of Georgia. Republicans make it happen. There you go. Ken, anybody but freaking, what's his name? Brian. Just what a loser. Chip the Enlightened. Why have previously strong MAGA turned into the Israel is behind everything attitude? Trump's a puppet. Bondi and Cash are hiding the truth. Where is this coming from? Tucker, Candace? It's a good question, Chip. I mean, it can be fabricated. This can be nefarious forces from outside the country trying to fan the flames of division within the power center of our politics, which is MAGA. Clearly, Democrats are flailing. Wokeness is the butt of all jokes. The crowds are dissipating. The crowds of agitators are dissipating in Minnesota. They're demoralized to no end. So you have to go where the strength is. So I tend to see things like that as actually badges of honor. It tells us that, if we were irrelevant, nobody would be paying any attention to us. So I think there is a considerable amount of that coming in. This is paid agitprop to try to divide. Again, outside of that, I go back to this notion of post-Americanism. Post-Americanism, we tend to associate with the left because they want to destroy America. But there is a post-Americanism on the right that sees America has already been destroyed, right? So I'll defer back to my earlier answer there. And so it doesn't matter who we put into office. They're all going to get compromised because we don't matter. They don't matter. There are forces in place that are impenetrable. It's an absurd notion if you think it through. Absolutely absurd. If the Soviet Union can fall, the deep state can fall. It's not a problem. If the Soviet Union could collapse, they could collapse. I mean, what's the problem? There's this is what I mean. I think there's, the conspiracy mindset is one where delegitimation takes on dramatic form, the form of drama. So a legitimate state, a state that is seen as thoroughly legitimate, that has the full trust and confidence of the people in the world of mythology is this, it's Aragorn. He's restored to his throne in Gondor, and all the monsters, right? All of the evil has been pushed out into the periphery, into the forest, as it were. But when you no longer trust your government institutions, then by definition, the monsters come in. The monsters invade the walls. They penetrate the walls and they come into the city. And so you have Denethor as the leader of Gondor, who ended up pouring oil all over himself, lighting himself on fire and jumping off a cliff. So you do have, to the extent that they've bought into post-Americanism, you do have this notion that the monsters are running things and that there's nothing that we can do about it. There's a psychological resignation to that. And any attempt to try will always be thwarted. And, look at Pam, look at Cash, look at, it's the Jews, whatever, again, the monsters have breached the walls and they are inside and they're running things now. And, all I could say is, you feel that way all you want. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, this is what Admiral James Stockdale said when he was in a prison war camp for 7 years in Vietnam. It's the highest decorated naval officer in prisoner of war. And he said, the only way we survived that was by bringing together two dynamics in our minds, in our sentiment and our perspective. One is we had to have an absolutely sober assessment of the dire nature that we were facing. And we never lose hope that we prevail. Never lose hope that we prevail. The ones who only had hope and didn't come to terms with the dire nature of their circumstances died of a broken heart. Those who only focused on the dire nature of our circumstances wasted away and died of depression, basically. So you need both. You need a very sober assessment of the dire nature you're in, and you can never, ever lose hope that you'll prevail. It is the gospel story. It is Friday and Sunday. It's what turns the cross into a tree of life. It is embracing both the dire nature and the triumph. And so I would not listen to those people. I have never sat through so much as 3 seconds of a Candace Owens broadcast. Never. I mean, at least since she kind of, went off the deep end. There's no point, because when I just bring that Stockdale principle and I just see someone who's crawled up in a corner, started naming her rats, and she's going to waste away. And in just a matter of months, we'll see a skeleton. I scroll past all the doom nonsense on X. I pay no attention to it. And again, I don't go with the soul Pollyanna. So, we got this. No, we don't. No problem. No, I know it's going to be formidable. It's very hard to win a midterm when you have the White House. It's only been done 3 times. It's very, very hard. That's going to be hard to do. Now, again, I think we're in a new era and a new phase. So I don't necessarily know if past is precedent there. So that's what I'm watching to wait to see. With all of the redistricting that's going on, there's just not a lot of wiggle room for anybody. So it's the question is who can get that last bit of ounce left of seats. And I think we're doing pretty well in that area, especially if the Supreme Court overturns the VRA. So I try to keep both in mind. We have struggles. We have definitely formidable, dire opponents, as it were. And we're crushing it. A new civilizationalist world is rising. We're winning. Globalism is dead. Globalism has been crushed. So we're good. There's a lot of lag. There's a lot of hangover. We're seeing it with the NFL and Roger Goodell. A lot of hangover from this woke nonsense that dominated for 4 years in our country. And there's a lot of hangover from the liberal international order, no question, in terms of Middle East policy. And so, no, gotcha. But we won. This is not 1991 anymore. This isn't 2008 anymore. We won. And now it's a cleanup mission. And I just would not pay any attention to any of those doomers at this point, because they're just utterly worthless. All they're doing is destroying themselves. I don't see anything else. And they risk, if they go really off the deep end, they risk going the way of the Drudge Report. Matt Drudge was it. I remember in 2016. What was it? I thought it was the now increasingly defunct Washington Post. I thought it was the Post that wrote the article, How Matt Drudge Won the Presidency. He was alternative media. Now when's the last time you looked at the Drudge Report? I haven't looked at the Drudge Report probably in, 8 years now, or however long, whenever he took his turn and he went anti-Trump. I threw him away just like everybody else did. Our Black Pearl. Hi, Steve. I'm a proud Black woman, conservative New Yorker. I tell Democrats to listen to you. They don't like me telling the truth. Too bad. Well, our Black Pearl 7, great to have you here. God bless you. I'm a Connecticutter. I grew up in Connecticut. So we're neighbors. I don't know where you are in New York, if you're in the city or more in upstate, but thank you. God bless you. Obviously it's you fit right on in with the civic nationalist sentiment here, where we are bound together by faith, family, and freedom, and we are brothers and sisters in America. We love it. So I love it. Yeah. Again, keep in mind, identity. Who was it? It was Sam Huntington of Harvard University. Basically made the argument in the early 90s that the world was moving away from ideology to identity. And ideology was either we were Western liberals or we were Soviet communists. That was the age of ideology in the 20th century. And everyone in the world had to declare which side they were on. But when the Soviet Union fell, what Huntington noticed is that the world, especially after the Soviet Union balkanized, lost a third of its land mass, a third of its countries overnight, with, Armenia and Ukraine and Azerbaijan and Belarus, and so all declaring national independence, Georgia and the like, and all the stands. And and then of course you had the whole Yugoslavia blow up in the Balkans. That's what Huntington argues. We're moving away from ideology and we're embracing identity. Politics is going away from the ideological down to the bones, to the DNA. And then you have two choices. Are we going to embrace a civic identity that brings polyethnic, multi-ethnic, racial people together, like Russia? Russia has over 100 ethnicities. Or are we going to go the way of Yugoslavia? And are we going to balkanize and go with our own race, our own people, as it were, ethnically defined? And that's where we are. There isn't really a left and a right anymore. There's civic nationalism versus ethno-nationalism. And I think you'll find a lot of people on the left have disguised their ethno-nationalism in the language of civil rights. A brilliant book on this. It's big, it's thick, very scholarly. Nevertheless, just the warning, not everyone likes that, is the book by Carol Swain, former professor at Vanderbilt, called The New White Nationalism, or New White Nationalists, I forget. But if you just put Swain and New White Nationalists, you'll be able to get it. Carol Swain is a Black scholar, University of Vanderbilt. A brilliant backstory, by the way, single mother, everything. I think she was even a high school dropout at one point from a very poor southern rural town, and just literally made her way up the academic ranks, got her PhD, ended up teaching. I think she was at one point at Princeton, Harvard, forget one of the Ivy Leagues. And she wrote a book back in 2000. I've interviewed her twice on it, so I get all giddy when I talk about it. I love Carol Swain, one of my favorite scholars. And she wrote a book in 2000 on this development of ethno-nationalism taking on civil rights language, civil rights veneer. And she called it out on the left every bit as much as she was seeing it on the right. So she noticed that the new white nationalists weren't these Darwinian, bio-supremacists, they were like the KKK. They were instead, they were more animated by civil rights concerns. Wait a minute, if you're Black and you get to vote your racial interests, and you're Asian, you get to vote your racial interests, and you're Latino, you get to vote your racial interests. Why can't I, as a white person, vote my racial interests? Why don't I have racial interests? When did that? And so she pointed out in 2000, keep in mind, so 26 years ago, that was already changing politics in our nation. Our nation was becoming tribalized. It was becoming ethnocentric. This is before BLM. This is before La Raza. This is before any of that. And she saw it. She saw the left was actually moving away from multiculturalism to a full-blown tribalism, to a balkanization. So all politics is identity politics. The question now is it civic identity that binds us together, which is what Carol Swain argues for. Big Trump supporter, by the way, just like you. Are we going to embrace civic nationalism that brings us all together, like the all-American halftime show? Or are we going to balkanize? Are we going to break up into our different, ethnicities, and in this tribalized ethno-nationalism? Either way, nationalism wins. Either way, the world's going nationalist. So the question is, which one, which version? I think we're going to win. Obviously, with people like you, our Black Pearl, we are going to win. We've already won, so we're good to go. Thank you, our Black Pearl. Very kind of you. Benton, Must Learn Professor, can you enlighten me? I'll try. The ladies of the Promethean have reported that the French government has raided Musk. I assume it was over X or Starlink. That's what I heard. I haven't done a deep dive in it, But the report that I saw was that they do have an office in France, and it got raided. Yeah, the French government is raiding because Elon is refusing to. I mean, bottom line, he's refusing to censor the way they want the European Union wants them to censor, and yeah, the French government is taking it upon themselves to let's just say force them to comply. But that's about all I know of it. So, very concerning, no question. Again, like I said, we're winning, but there's still lag. There's still the residual from the old liberal international order and the bullies in Brussels and the EU sentiments and the like. The one and only, but if we lose the House, won't MAGA be blocked and over? No. I mean, they can make things difficult, funding issues difficult, and so forth. But no, there's all kinds of measures like Trump was doing in the last shutdown to continue to fund and appropriations and so on. I don't think you have to worry. There's not a lot they're going to be able to do. The most the Democrats are going to be able to do is obstruct the legislative process of MAGA. MAGA is not a legislative movement. MAGA is an executive movement. MAGA is a presidential movement. It has yet to translate into a congressional one. We don't have a MAGA party yet. It's not there. We don't have a MAGA Congress yet. It's not there. So no, I wouldn't pay a lot of attention. Trump can do whatever he wants at the executive level, and that's where the true power is. Alma Gomez, hi, Dr. Turley. Do you think we will get the SAVE Act passed? I do. Like I said, I'll defer to my other answer. Again, I just don't see how Thune makes it politically and the Republican Party makes it politically without it. He has to pass it. And if there were ever a time to get rid of the filibuster, it's this with something that is so obviously an 80-20 issue with voter ID. Just make it voter ID. Just focus on voter ID. Don't even worry about the SAVE Act. If you focus on voter ID, you will have close to high 80% of the American people behind you. And if you're going to say they're refusing, the Democrats are refusing to even allow this up for a vote, maybe put in the physical filibuster where they have to be up there and read green eggs and ham or whatever goofy things they do, and keep it going. That sometimes stop, and then you bring it to a vote. With a simple 50% plus one. If they're not going to do that, then they're just going to have to get rid of the filibuster, and they can use an issue that 85% of the people support. And I think they'll have all the political cover they need to do that. So I think, yes, he will. Mitchell, how does Trump fight blue states that say we don't care, we won't allow voter ID? I think some blue states could be closer if voter ID was allowed. Well, they have to pass a national act that makes voter ID mandatory. And again, the argument is that it disenfranchises states that are using voter ID, like Florida, Texas, well, the vast majority of them, save for the radical blue ones. No, they can withdraw their money. They can hold back and sanction them and make it hurt. And again, the Supreme Court can weigh in and force them to do it. Robo, if Thune doesn't pass the Save America Act, Trump should just remove him. Yeah, forget legality of the rules. It's either we save the country or forsake it. I'm with you. I think he will reap the ire of Trump, and no one has survived that so far. No one. Just ask, MTJ. No one has survived that. Look at Tom Massey is struggling to get reelected. Tom Massey's in a district that would reelect him by, massive margins. It looks like he's going down. He's got a real challenger that's probably going to take him out in the primaries. So, yeah, you don't want to be on Trump's bad side as a Republican, that's for sure. So I'm with you. Cordius, what can we do about birthright citizenship? The Democrats could win this if we don't target that once and for all. No, I don't think. No, I don't see that. Oh, no. Don't do that. Don't. No, what we call non sequiturs. That does not follow. No, birthright citizenship just makes, look, bottom line. If the border is secure and you get 0 illegal crossings every month, like we have seen for the last several months, birthright citizenship doesn't matter anymore. It just doesn't. Our concern was that illegal aliens were coming here and having birth, having babies and having birth. That's a new one. And then getting automatic citizenship, and then they were using them as anchor babies to bring in all of their family and so forth. Those days are over. No matter what the Supreme Court decides, those days are over. And I don't think the American people are going to stand for it. And again, especially if it looks like Cackles Kamala is going to be their nominee again. Increasingly, it does. I mean, JD may end up making Trump's victory in 2024 look tame by comparison. I could see over 220 electoral votes pretty simply with Cackles. Cackles would be a disaster. I could see us getting New Hampshire. I could see us coming even closer to getting Jersey, believe it or not. And again, when you bring out that mass amount of people to vote. But no, I think in the end, birthright citizenship, we're just going to have to see what they decide. The consensus is that the soups indicated they're going to go with it. They're going to keep it, which again, to me is just absurd, but that will be the one loss. But as long as we keep that border secure, we're fine. We don't have to worry about it. Franz, Dr. Steve, I have a +1 on my invitation to Ilhan Omar's wine tasting. Would you be interested in joining? Franz, I'll always hang out with you. Any excuse to hang out with you and sip some of that wonderful Somali wine. You bet. Or is it a California? I think she got a California, supposed California winery, right? Yeah, we'll hang out in that abandoned parking lot, kind of looking around. We'll break out our fold-up chairs. Well, I guess it'll be BYOW. I think we'll have to bring our own wine, obviously. Yeah, she's in trouble. I think she's in some major trouble. They want her. They want to take her down. They do. The Trump administration does. Robo guy. By the way, for the 250th 4th of July, it needs to be the biggest fireworks show in history. Cover the entire sky with American patriotism. Would that not be glorious? I would love it as well. Robo guy, great idea. I'm sure Trump's already. Come on, with the UFC fight on the front lawn of the White House. Come on, it'd be amazing. The one and only. Ooh, Dr. Steve, I saw a video where a lefty said ICE got Lalo. I wonder if that was our old Lalo. Our old Lalo. What is Lalo? I don't even know what. I know what laugh out loud is. What's Lalo? ICE got Lalo'd? I don't know. Josh, help me out if I don't know what. There's a composer named Eduardo Lalo. I see that, a Spanish composer, wrote a great violin concerto, actually. But I don't know what Lalo is. But anyway, there you go. Yeah, whatever a lefty said about ICE obviously is not going to be true. They're just propagandists. CG75, how's the SCOTUS ruling on gerrymandering in South? How's it? So the gerrymandering in the South, I think they okayed Texas, if that's what you're talking about, and they just okayed California. We knew they were going to do that. They bottom line, they said, legislatures could do whatever they want with redistricting as long as race is not used as the basis. That would be blatant violation of the 14th Amendment and racial discrimination. So that's why they think VRA is going to be overturned. If a VRA is overturned in a blue state, they'll just redistrict the racially drawn district around another blue another blue arrangement. Whereas in deep red states in the South, where there are 19, Politico estimates 19 solid blue majority minority districts, those would be redistricted around demographics that would guarantee they turn red. That's the idea. RoboGuy, thoughts on films that, even if they aren't historically accurate, they still invoke a strong sense of oneself? Braveheart, The Patriot, Gladiator. Oh, yeah, no, you're hitting, yeah. So those are just simply historical fictions, as we call them. Braveheart, The Patriot, Gladiator. Boy, you just hit three of the best. To Mel Gibson. And ironically, a role Mel Gibson apparently turned down. He was supposed to, before they got Russell Crowe, they approached Mel Gibson, as I understand it, for Gladiator. Oh, there's so many. I love. I love like samurai films, like really, really good. Historical Asian films. So like The Seven Samurai is awesome. Ran, R-A-N, King Lear, sort of reboot, as it were, but in feudal Japan. Those are cool. Those are again, they're dealing with the human condition at very, very deep levels. I loved Amadeus. Not the director's cut. Don't get the director's cut. Or I'm acting like Blockbuster's still there. But you know what I mean. Don't stream the direct. Stream just the one that won, 4 Academy Awards back in the 1980s. But that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful movie about, again, a main character who's Antonio Salieri. It's not even Mozart, wrestling with God because God didn't give him the gift of music like he gave to Mozart, and he becomes very jealous. And to me, that's very real, because I think we've all felt that. We all wanted something and saw somebody get it and get it so easily, and we all thought, why can't I get that? And he has to make his peace with that. He has to. So there you go. I mean, that's one. I mean, I've got so many old. I mean, I'd say Saving Private Ryan, but Saving Private Ryan is too hard for me to watch as a dad. Just seeing those boys being slaughtered that way. But again, it's a heroism, and that's what I love about it. Yeah, I think you hit it. Nothing more comes to mind than that. I'm sure I'm missing 1,000 of them. Let's see. We did great historical movies, and I'll put a Braveheart in there just to give him a sense of what I'm talking. I did like The Northman. I don't know if you saw that. It's a retelling of Hamlet. Again, pretty brutal, but very, very cool. Look at that. The first article, Braveheart, my favorite historically inaccurate movie. Yeah, don't worry. They're not freaking, we're just so freaked out about historical accuracies. Oh, I'm not getting much here. Great historical movies like Braveheart. See if we get that. Oh, okay. Rob Roy. Rob Roy was good. Again, there's a couple of could be a little rough to watch. I hated Napoleon. I thought Napoleon was terrible. I just thought it was a bad movie. They do have The Northman on there. That's really cool. Ooh, some good Tombstone. Tombstone. That'd be awesome. Wyatt Earp. If I remember, I liked that. Oh, Gods and Generals. Thought that was really good. Gettysburg, Gods and Generals. I think Gettysburg was a tighter, better movie. Those are very, very good. Yeah, there you go. Now we fill that out a little bit more. Will, I know this might be a yes/no response, but Epstein 2020 election, Minneapolis riots, is it changing the mindset of Americans according to any polls. I have not seen any polls directly with either Epstein or 2020 election. I mean, more people think 2020 was compromised than ever. I've seen that. But generally speaking, we do have studies. There was a Princeton study that found that riots and urban unrest tends to translate into the electorate moving right because they want law and order restored. Keep in mind what made November of 2020 so odd was that we had all of this rioting in starting in Minneapolis and all the BLM burning down of our cities. And I said that's going to be good for Trump. Because according to this study, that moves electorates to the right. Remember, we were just a handful of seats away from winning control of the House in 2020. I think we picked up something like 18 seats in the House in 2020. We've never seen that. We've never seen gains in the House. And then the presidential candidate of that party lose. It's never happened before. So I think we'll see something comparable. I think all of this hysteria and nuttiness and insanity that we're seeing in Minneapolis in particular, in this one spot, is only going to hurt the Democrats. And it's going to cause the population to move right. And again, I think that is corroborated in the polls. Even Harry Enton of CNN is having to admit that we're finding that the support for mass deportations is at its highest level ever. More and more people want it than ever. They want mass deportations. They may not like how messy it is, but they want it. So, Diane, what do you think about the Bush family friends pushing Ted Cruz as a return to the old GOP guard and crushing the MAGA movement? It can't happen. There's no coalition for the old GOP guard. Doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Even the old Mike Pence guard in Indiana were voted in by MAGA loyalists, who are now going to vote him out in the next primary. So no, there's nothing there. Ted Cruz couldn't. I don't even know if he could win 220 electoral votes at this point. There's literally no coalition for an old neocon rhino platform. It's just gone. It's nationalism. It's MAGA. It's border security. It's economic security. It's cultural security. Civilizationalism. Staying within our hemisphere. That's it. It's not. We're gonna. It's just not the. We're gonna bring peace and prosperity to all nations in the world. We're gonna bring a new era of we're gonna defeat Russia. We're gonna defeat China. No, those days are gone. It's over. William Livingston, I'm reveling in Whoopi Goldberg being in the Epstein files. If true, yeah, I don't know. I haven't caught up with that, but that would be glorious. Yes, that'd be quite ironic. Twist of fate. MDE, can you speak more to what the future looks like for America? Congress is mad about Trump's war moves and his tariff stance. He's acting like a boss, and Congress, Senate don't like it. Yeah, no, there you go. You got it. Yeah, no, because they're all bought and paid for neocons and rhinos. They hate tariffs because their patrons, shall we say, hate tariffs. So I think America is becoming the key to understanding the trajectory of the United States. The bottom line key is that we're becoming radically more religious. It's demography. More and more people are talking about this, which is pretty cool. But we've been talking about this for years now, for almost 9-10 years now. But the world is becoming more religious because the most accurate predictor for fertility rates is religious commitment. So all over the world, religious conservatives are having kids, and liberal secularists are not. Liberal secularists, by and large, have stopped having children. And as a result, it's the most bizarre thing imaginable. As a result, they are simply disappearing off the face of the earth. People will say, oh, but they don't need to have kids when they can get our own. No, we have study after study that shows that religious conservatives are having so many kids that liberals could steal half of them and they still would not have, in terms of, ideologically brainwashing them, and they still wouldn't be able to keep up with religious conservatives. And studies show religious conservatives do keep, the more conservative you are, the more your kids go into adulthood, keep that conservatism for themselves. Upwards 70-80%. It's actually been going up for Amish. It used to be around 70% retention rates among Amish. Now it's closer to 90%. So the world is becoming more religious. This is why Israel is becoming more right-wing, not less. It's because Haredi Jews used to be only about a fifth of their school classroom population, Haredi Jewish children. Today, they're about half. And that's just going to keep going. It's not stopping. By some estimates, by the mid or to end of next century, there'll be over 300 million Amish. There'll be as many Amish in our country as there are people today. So what we're seeing is a country that is increasingly conservative. There's no way around it. And it's increasingly conservative because biologically, conservatives are reproducing, whereas liberals are not. At the same time, liberalism, just as an ideology, has met its demise. It's just falling apart. So now it's turning into lunacy. Liberalism is literally becoming the lunacy it always was. And so it ends up defeating itself. It ends up defeating itself by being repulsive to conservatives, who are the ones having kids, reproducing, growing. And it becomes repulsive to even fellow liberals, like Bill Maher, finds wokeness nuts. So there's no future for that. Again, there's hangover, but there's no future. So that's where we're going. We're becoming a much more religious society, much more conservative, and much more civilizationalist. In other words, we're using the power of America to secure our sphere of the Western Hemisphere, just as Russia's using its power to secure its orthosphere. China's using its power to secure its sinosphere. India's using its power to secure its Hindu sphere. We'll see how sub-civilizations in the Middle East, how they work it out in the process. So that's where the world is going. And I just think in the end, the rhino, the liberal, the neocon, their days are over. Just a matter of time of when. Joan, are they keeping in mind that some people do legitimately need mail-in ballots? Oh, yeah. Yes. The last time my husband voted, he was in the hospital. He couldn't have gone in person 2 weeks. Yes. No. There's totally legit mail voting, and that's what they want to do. They just want to keep it to legit. In 2020, they got away with it in that it was non-discriminate. Everybody got a mail-in ballot, and they tried to do that again in 2024, but there were just too many restrictions placed in too many states that thankfully had enough Republican majority legislatures to bring back the old strictures that if you're incapacitated or if you just simply want to vote early, if you're abroad, whatever it is, but you have to request the mail-in ballot, right? You don't just get it automatically sent. That's what happened in 2020. Lalo, the old lefty troll. I still don't know what Lalo. What's the old lefty troll? Let me try it one more time. And it's not you guys, it's me. I'm always out of the loop. Troll. I don't know, dude. It says there's no specific information identifying a specific person. I don't know. Lalo. There's a demoralization op, and unfortunately, people like Barris and Mitchell have fallen into it, even though they may have some good points to make. Possibly, yeah. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up too much with them. I think Mark, just I guess because Mark comes on my feed more. But yeah, Rich is very, very, very concerned that that Trump's foreign policy can end up, it sounds to me, I'd have to ask him directly, but it sounds to me he thinks is being more governed by, someone like Lindsey Graham, that foreign policy is undermining the gains he made in creating a new Trumpian coalition among disaffected independent populists. And he's worried that they were going to see him as Bush 2.0. We'll have to see. He's got polling that he argues shows that. And then we're seeing the voter registrations. The partisan voter registration. All 30 states will receive voter registration. Democrats are hemorrhaging and Republicans are crushing it. So how do we put those two together? And that's what we'll have to see over the next 10 months. So, but yeah, I mean, just people have to be careful. For me, people have to be careful over being way too caustic in their criticisms. You always have to be seen as someone who's trying to help. You can't be seen, again, like a drudge where someone is, where you become denigrating. Because then you're not seen as helping anymore. Then all of a sudden people say, oh, so this is about you. This is about you rescuing MAGA from Trump. This isn't right. Or yeah, it's just, there has to be a level of persuasion in your concerns. I would caution everyone on that. And that's it. All right, guys. Great weekend ahead of us. Super Bowl. We'll see what we could do. But I know it's going to be awesome. And I will be tuning into the All-American halftime show, as I'm sure you are as well. Love you guys. Stay safe. And I'll see you on Monday. God bless.